Let's look now at some extensions to the infographics section. So we are familiar with these bars that show progress or that show proportions among different types of things. And we are familiar with these arrows that indicate the relative change in some quantity. We had also talked about the radial bars, and we talked about modifying the text. And of course, it's always useful to have more types of elements for infographics. And here we are introducing two new types. So the one is oriented to the number, so to the value that is on this behind this interface. So this row of elements is oriented to the number, and then you can include some text down there. And then on this row, it's oriented more towards some kind of icon, which implies something. So you could, of course, integrate numbers into here by modifying the strings down there. But anyway, let's look at these number ones first. And if you look over in our UE set, so under, remember, this is under show infographics. So that was the method that was used to render the infographics. And so we've included these new elements down here. So here it's a row of text elements. So we use the same type again. So AUE info prog bar, that awkwardly named type. So before we specified circle, or we specified line, or row, or whatever it was. So now we specify text, and so if you use a template of type text with AUE info prog bar, then the system will expect a value to be provided. So it will look for a val attribute. And in this case, remember, we had set up vals 0, vals 1, vals 2. So there was an array of vals. So we are pulling out the first element of the array, and we are using that as the val part of this AUE prog bar, this text AUE prog bar. And we do that for each of those. And then we also can provide some text here. So that's how we can set the text at the bottom. That's how we can set the text at the bottom here, and then by specifying the val, it will show that as this this heavily emphasized number. So those are the two elements, and then we can add a bit of style to that. We can specify here CSS style. So this is a color code, so we can change the color through the style, through the CSS style attribute. And then we do a bit more styling here as well by making sure this thing is wide enough. So we use a col4, so that's the column divider 4. We know these all have to add up to 12, so there's 3 col4s, so it adds up to col12. So that's just coloring and spacing, and so that's how we can make these infographic elements. And so that's the text, that's of template type text. And then let's make one now with the icons instead. So we specify here we are just creating a container, right, just to make sure it's a row. And that's the same thing we did up here. We made a row container. So inside our row container, we are going to position each of these icon style AUE info prog bars. So again, AUE info prog bar, and this time you say the template is icon, and then you have to provide the icon selection here. And remember, you can always look up your icons if you go over to the icons section, and there is a whole video on how to find icons. So anyway, we've got we've chosen some icons here. So folder, dog, chart area. So we specify as an icon attribute, and then we can specify text. And of course, in the text, we can also include numbers if we want to. And remember, to use variables with strings, the best way to do that is using the backticks and using dollar curly brackets. So we can say here vals 0, and so we can repeat this for each one of these. Okay, and again, as we had in the previous case, we can style the color here and we can style the spacing. So that's all quite consistent with what we did in the previous one. And if we just rerun this, you can see here the numbers are appearing as well. Okay, so those are two simple additions to our infographics elements.